Hello, TCMS students. Mrs. Martin here with our Unit 2, Think About This Situation. In this unit, we're going to be focusing on interpreting categorical data. Throughout these slides, you'll see some icons. When you see this meme, this is mostly just for your consideration. When you see the pencil, I highly suggest you write this down and keep it for your reference in your notebook. Remember that when you take tests in my class, you will be allowed to use these notes and your assignments for your reference on the tests. Now, before we get started, I just want to point out that some of the content in this chapter does cover topics that we might be sensitive about. We'll see tables on social issues and illnesses like cancer. Try to prepare for this material, and please let me know if you have any concerns. In this unit, we will be looking at data to assess risk. And in this Think About the Situation activity, we're going to consider, does smoking cause lung cancer? Now, you might have lots of opinions about this already, but we're going to take some numbers and see if the numbers can help us solidify and support different ideas and opinions. We'll begin with the brief video on myths about smoking.
Continue our health campaign, taking action for you with important information on a variety of health topics. This week, we're talking about lung cancer, still one of the deadliest diseases. Can you get lung cancer if you've never smoked? An expert from Florida Cancer Specialist tackles some of the common myths about smoking and cancer.
So how are you doing?
76-year-old Thomas Floridio has stage 4 lung cancer. He smoked very little and quit back in 1968, so the diagnosis was a shock.
Yeah, very much so. And it was something that the doctors came upon by x-raying me for another problem.
If he quit years ago, he should be in the clear, right? That's smoking myth number 1.
Your risks of having lung cancer for smoking dramatically decreases. It doesn't bring you down to a level of a never smoker, but it does decrease by 80 to 90% around year 15.
Smoking myth number 2. If you never smoke at all, you won't ever get lung cancer.
Non-smokers do get lung cancer. The incidence is mostly in women, but the idea is that likely secondhand smoking is a major risk factor there.
What about medical marijuana? Can you get lung cancer from that?
Medical marijuana is still not quite known. The reason for it is that the studies that were being done were relatively small studies.
Smoking myth number 4. There's no great screening method to find early lung cancer. The doctor says low-dose CT scans have been shown to decrease mortality by 20%, so they could become a more common screening tool in a high-risk population, like a mammogram for breast cancer. And finally, if you are diagnosed with lung cancer, it's hard to treat, so it's just a matter of time before the cancer kills you.
The sooner we detect the cancer, the more likely we have the ability to cure. The stage 1 cancer, we quote 6 to 65% cure rates with surgery.
Here's what Thomas wants everyone to know about smoking myths.
We are all vulnerable to our total environment that we currently live in. So it's something people should be aware of at all times, and precautions should be taken by good physicals.
All right, so we've just heard a little bit about some myths regarding smoking. And again, I'm sure you have a lot of your own experience or understandings about smoking and lung cancer. Your feelings towards lung cancer are just as important as the data that we're going to be looking at. And keep all those things in mind as we start looking at the numbers. To get us started, we're going to want to get a copy of this on our paper. Now that we've got our table copied over, let's continue with the slides. Using the table on the right, we're going to answer the questions for 1, 2, 3, and 4. Take some time to use your table and answer these 4 questions. Number 1, how many smokers are there altogether? Number 2, how many smokers got diagnosed with lung cancer? Number 3, how many non-smokers are there? And number 4, how many non-smokers got diagnosed with lung cancer? Using the table, we should have concluded the following. There are 1,645,000 smokers in this study. 283,000 of them were diagnosed with lung cancer. 6,748,000 people were non-smokers in this study. 88,000 of them were diagnosed with lung cancer. Now that we've got some numbers, and of course you have your own thoughts about this topic, is a smoker or a non-smoker more likely to get lung cancer? Make sure to explain your reasoning. Now there can be a lot of answers to this question, but ultimately we have to conclude this. We can't go by number here. In other words, it is not enough to say a smoker is more likely because more of them got lung cancer, because our totals are not the same. Let's check out our table. We clearly have 283,000 smokers getting lung cancer versus the 88,000 non-smokers getting lung cancer. However, we have different totals here. So although the totals up here, it looks like smokers get diagnosed with lung cancer far more often, we also have to take into consideration percents. We talked about this in Unit 1, and it's coming back here in Unit 2. Let's take a look at some of those numbers. Here is our percent for smokers. To get the percent, we take the number of smokers that got lung cancer and we divide it by the total number of smokers. When we divide those two, we get about 17%. For our non-smokers, we see that we've got 88,000 diagnosed with lung cancer out of 6,748,000, which amounts to about 1%. With these two numbers, we can conclude that smokers are more likely to get lung cancer because the rate of smokers getting diagnosed with lung cancer is larger than that of non-smokers. Again, we have to make sure to utilize percent in these scenarios. In this case, it just so happened that 283,000 is larger than 88,000, but in the future, when the totals are not the same, we need to make sure to go by percent so that we aren't deceived by total numbers. Now let's consider a boy who is diagnosed with lung cancer. Do you think he was a smoker or a non-smoker? Make sure to explain your reasoning and consider the idea that you have your own opinions and then you have the data to support your thinking. For this question, we can look at all sorts of scenarios. Using the numbers, it would make more sense if this boy was a smoker, and that's why he was diagnosed with lung cancer. On the other hand, when we use vocabulary like boy, what age are we talking about here? Is it more likely to assume a boy was a smoker or a non-smoker if he's 10? So again, as with many situations with statistics, vocabulary and the way questions are asked could be crucial to how you are responding to the posed question. For this scenario, let's look at the total number of people who got diagnosed with lung cancer. For this, we're going to need another column on our table, which your textbook often leaves out, and I'm going to encourage to always include. We've just added a total column. Let's go ahead and add up along the rows. Again, your textbook leaves out this total column, but I think it's really important in order to get some good conclusions here. Let's continue on with our slides. We've already taken care of the total number of people who have gotten diagnosed with lung cancer, 371,000. This means that 371,000 of all of the people who were surveyed got lung cancer. We've just eliminated whether or not they were smokers or non-smokers, and in total found 371,000 got lung cancer. Now, let's consider this ratio. And again, Unit 2 is going to be all about ratios and percentages. We've got lifestyle in the numerator and got cancer in the denominator. This ratio says that of all of the people who got cancer, this many lived a certain lifestyle. Notice that the word of references the denominator. So for smokers, there were 283,000 of them who got cancer. That's out of the 371,000 who got cancer in total. That's about 76% of our cancer patients that were smokers. For non-smokers, again, out of the 371,000 cancer patients, 88,000 of them were non-smokers, and that's about 24%. Notice that 76 and 24 equal 100% because we are talking about all of our cancer patients in the study. With these percentages, it's pretty clear that the boy was probably a smoker, since 76% of our cancer patients were smokers. Let's consider this comment. A male smoker is blank times as likely to get lung cancer as a male non-smoker. Your answer should be 13 times as likely to get lung cancer as a male non-smoker. For this math, we use the decimals rather than the percents because we have more decimal places here. Rounding could really cause problems, so if we keep in the decimals, we notice that we're about 13 times as likely. Notice that we use the decimals that we had in the previous slide, with 17% of smokers getting cancer and 1% of non-smokers getting cancer. At this point, we've seen 3 different ways of sharing statistical data to help us try and draw conclusions that smoking causes lung cancer. We've seen percentages as low as 1% and as high as 76%. And now we've got sentences saying 13 times as likely for something to happen. All of these figures are numbers that will be thrown at you when we talk about statistics. And it's a matter of understanding where they come from so that you can be supported or you can avoid being deceived by these statistical figures. Another question that we will be faced throughout this unit is the situation of prevention. How many cases of lung cancer could be prevented if none of these boys had ever smoked? Let's consider the math. Think of the smokers that we had in the study, 1,645,000 people that we surveyed. To talk about the people who would have been saved, let's consider the non-smokers. Now, even if you are a non-smoker, 1% of those people still got lung cancer. So despite avoiding smoking, there is still the possibility that they could get sick. We'll use this 1% or 0.0130 to see how many smokers would get cancer regardless of their lifestyle or life choice. In other words, the 1% who got lung cancer despite avoiding smoking will take 1% of the 1,645,000 smokers this time. In that scenario, whether they decided to smoke or not, 21,385 people would have gotten sick regardless of their decision to smoke. So, in this ideal world where no one smokes, of the 1,645,000 people who reported that they smoked, 21,385 of them would have gotten lung cancer. In reality, the data that we have there in the table, 283,000 got it. Using a little bit of subtraction, the 283,000 that got it in reality, minus the theoretical 21,385 that would have gotten it regardless of lifestyle, 261,615 people could have avoided getting lung cancer had they not smoked. Another way of looking at this is, if smoking didn't cause lung cancer, 261,615 people could have been spared. They would have been spared because if smoking didn't cause lung cancer, then both smokers and non-smokers would have had that 1% chance of getting lung cancer. In other words, if smoking didn't cause lung cancer, then both smokers and non-smokers would have had the same ratio, 0.0130, of people who were diagnosed with lung cancer. Now let's think about what adults, or people in general, tell you about smoking. What exactly do people mean when they say that smoking causes lung cancer? Try using data in the table to support their claim. Are there any plausible or believable reasons other than smoking why smokers get lung cancer at a greater rate than non-smokers do? Here's a different thing to think about. Have you ever heard someone doubt that smoking causes lung cancer because he or she knew a smoker who had not gotten lung cancer? Or perhaps they knew someone who did have lung cancer and didn't smoke. When people make these claims, do you believe them? Do you think the table in your notebook helps you prove anything about smoking and getting diagnosed with lung cancer? For this question, some of you may have considered something we call exceptions. Exceptions to the rule. This person never smoked, but still got lung cancer. Or this person smoked every single day and never got lung cancer. We can't dwell on exceptions. As with anything in nature, there are so many variables. In this unit, we'll be using data to help us find general trends and patterns and allow us to develop our own ideas of what is and isn't safe. To conclude this video, soon you will be making your own medical decisions. That's if you aren't already. And you must be prepared to look at data on two groups to decide if you should take a certain medicine or agree to medical procedures and or engage in risky behavior. Our hope is that data and statistics might help you make those decisions in the future. I'm looking forward to Unit 2.